Welcome back to today's aviation news recap. In today's focus, well, there's tensions between Delta and Airbus. The European plane maker continues to emerge in headlines, this time after a successful March, and Condor is expanding. Want to begin with tensions between US airlines and European plane maker Airbus, arising as threats surrounding tariffs continue to occupy headlines. Now, major US customer Delta has indicated that it will not pay tariff costs imposed on planes made by Airbus that it is expected to take delivery of. The airline's chief executive officer, Ed Bastian, commented that deliveries would be deferred if additional expenses were incurred, and as a result, the airline would go on to find a more optimal time to take on the planes. While Delta is continuing to work with Airbus, this is a very important point. To limit the overall impact on its business when acquiring these new planes, the tensions obviously do remain high, and this is something to be expected if we take a look at how the first 4 months of 2025 have really panned out. Speaking during the airline's quarterly earnings call and visible through transcripts of conversations, Bastian said that any additional costs would present challenges to the business and therefore not make logistical sense to take on the said plane. Ultimately, this is going to impact the airline, no doubt. Delta is currently undergoing major fleet renewal and streamlining efforts to maintain a competitive edge and, more importantly, be efficient for decades to come. As part of those ongoing fleet renewal efforts, Delta has placed greater reliance than ever before on Airbus-produced planes. In fact, the only Boeing series that it is committed to is the 737 MAX for the future, with many variants also of this family being uncertified and throwing its curveballs to the US company as they plan for the future. Therefore, if we're simply ignoring the tensions, Airbus is going to play a very crucial role in allowing Delta to grow into the future and retire some of its older, less efficient planes. If the airline wants to be successful in the long term, it needs to find a solution to mitigate these additional costs and work through the tensions. Unfortunately, in the last few years, the industry has shown, driven by supply chain woes, that an extended period of reliance on older planes isn't necessarily always the best situation to be in and can have damaging effects, not necessarily on an airline's ability to carry passengers, but certainly on its bottom line. This is why it's imperative that despite Bastian's warning call, they again, I'll reiterate, find a means to work through the complicated politics now involved in taking delivery of such planes. Delta's CEO's comments on the tariffs and their impact on the deal with Airbus shouldn't inevitably come as a shock. In mid-February, Airbus's CEO stated that the proposed tariffs would disrupt its operations across the United States if moved ahead with, and as a result, at worst, force it to place priorities elsewhere. Airbus stated that airlines worldwide are eager to take delivery of next-generation planes from its portfolio. Because of this eagerness and the challenges in dealing with the United States, Airbus has gone as far as confirming that it would not hesitate to change up its backlog. In essence, those changes would likely push ahead deliveries to customers who make the process easier than those in the United States, which would mean your US customers are going to miss out on valuable delivery slots, therefore hindering their growth. Over to some positive news, Condor has announced international expansion for the winter season of 2025-2026. Condor has confirmed it will begin new daily flights between Stuttgart and Dubai as part of its latest expansion efforts. Meanwhile, the airline has also confirmed it will offer a second daily flight between Berlin and Dubai as part of its own efforts to expand into the Middle East. Condor feels that if it offers greater connectivity to markets such as the Middle East and the UAE specifically, known for its warmer weather, while more passengers will begin flying the airline during the colder winter periods. With heightened options from Stuttgart and Berlin, the airline intends to offer more flights to more global markets, especially, like I said, those warmer locations. The changes in the following ones are all part of the airline's intent to really maximize its assets and build a profitable schedule across a long-term period. Other changes on the network include the jump in flights towards Bangkok, with daily services to be offered. Service will be further strengthened in the east, with Phuket also seeing daily flying. Meanwhile, Cape Town will experience daily service too, and Condor confirms Johannesburg will receive thrice-weekly flights to complement its South African presence. Lastly, for the winter season, Condor has confirmed Panama City is launching for this upcoming summer season, but in a new development, it will continue into the colder months, with 2 weekly flights. The company adds that seamless connectivity can also be expected from Frankfurt to other destinations that are popular right across Europe. Now that ranges from Berlin, Vienna, Zurich, and more. Over to the final story in today's recap. Airbus has published its quarterly deliveries, and the plane maker has shipped off 130 136 jets. However, the results were not as strong as maybe Airbus may have initially hoped, believe it or not. This only represents a small increase from Boeing, who shipped off 130 planes in the very same quarter. A shift in March also represents the manufacturer finally catching up with competitor Boeing for deliveries in 2025 because, believe it or not, it had actually fallen behind its counterpart. There are still, though, encouraging signs for Airbus. After a slow start to the calendar year, they saw a massively successful March with 71 aircraft delivered across the 31 days. 71 deliveries also represents in a month more than what happened across the first two of this year, when just 65 planes were shipped off. While it certainly is typical for plane makers to start off the year a little bit slowly after a really roaring end to the calendar year, this was certainly below what was expected of them. Frankly, the company's poor performance across the first 2 months of the year was really driven by Airbus's supply chain woes, which prevented them from moving through its backlog and having output rates that would have been on par with what expectations had been lined out for it. The thing is, to achieve the target of 820 commercial airplane deliveries for 2025, considerable efforts will need to be done to prevent the further production rate drops, which would completely risk achieving this goal. In recent years, Airbus has not been able to hit its yearly delivery target, even if revisions were sometimes made in the early part of the respective year following realizations that the original target was not attainable. Even these couldn't be hit. After a strong end to the first quarter, 2025 is still going to pose some challenges for the manufacturer that they may not have expected only a few months ago. See, as I touched on in the beginning of this video, ongoing political tensions towards the United States have seen Delta come out and say that they would refuse new aircraft deliveries from the manufacturer if there was to be additional costs that accompanied them. This would impact not just Airbus, but Delta, who rely heavily on the plane maker. Furthermore, we already know that the European manufacturer said it could even look at prioritizing other airline customers away from the United States if tariffs were to continue being a threat and really be implemented on a mass scale. The manufacturer goes on to say that things could get more complicated before they get better. And if dealings with the United States continue to get more challenging, they won't hesitate to shift their priorities elsewhere. What could this do to their monthly output rate? What could this do to their end-of-year targets? That all remains the multi-billion-dollar question, but that is why our aviation industry is a must-watch right now. It never seems to be smooth sailing, but there is still a lot happening, and I don't know about you, but certainly fascinating to follow. Thanks for watching, take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry recap.
And we'll fly.